So I'd like to take a minute to bring to light a game that I feel hasn't exactly gotten the love it truly deserves. Now, I'm not saying that it hasn't gotten some attention. The community for this game is absolutely amazing and extremely supportive. I just simply wish to bring to light a new type of sandbox simulation game that I feel was pretty much overlooked. Hardspace ShipBreaker. As of May 24th, this game has had its full release out of early access. Now, what does that mean for this game? Well, we'll dive into that here in just a minute. So when I mention a simulation game, most of the time, the first game that comes to thought would be games such as Farming Simulator or Power Washing Sim, and even that of Lawn Mowing Simulation, which is the newest in the franchise. But what if I told you that this new game opens an entirely new type of simulation? One that not only, in my opinion, pushes the boundaries of what can be achieved in a simulation game, but also expands upon a new type of simulation formula, while also laying a foundation to broaden the possibilities for current and future sim games. Now, to know the game is to know the history of where it's come from, its core mechanics, and its possibilities for the future. I may not be a history buff when it comes to the life of this game, but I have played it throughout its development life cycle, through early access, and with every update, I feel the developers are taking a step in the right direction. From the start, I have felt as though this development team has put a lot of their heart into making this game feel relaxing, but all the while adding a little more stress into the mix, throwing the game into more of a higher stakes power washing simulator type feel. So I'd like to start off with the overall feel of the game, the first impression so to speak. When starting the game, you're introduced into the world as humankind has begun to heavily industrialize the solar system. After which you're given an application to the ShipBreaker program, thus moving you into the tutorial portion of the game. The tutorial that is provided will give you the basics of movement and overall feel of working in a zero-G environment with a wide variety of tools and materials. Once you've gotten yourself acquainted with the movement and array of tools, they throw your first ship at you. Something basic to recognize the difference in materials and support structures you'll have to familiarize yourself with, as the ships will get larger and more complex as you progress. Now, with the brief intro to the tutorial out of the way, let's move on to the ships, the main focus the game was structured around. There are currently 4 classes of ships in the game, each providing their own unique design, challenges, and puzzles. As of now, the models we have access to are the Mackerel, some of the smaller and more basic ships that you'll be working with, the Atlas, which is slightly larger than the Mackerel class, supporting a more complex structure, the Javelin class, which will be your first step into the larger ship category, and finally the Gecko. Although not as large as the Javelin, the Gecko sports some of the more complex superstructures, electrical systems, and overall materials out of all the prior classes of ships on this list. With each ship, there is a subversion of that ship, such as a cargo ship or a salvage ship, for example. Each one supporting a different interior blueprint and exterior design, as well as different items to be salvaged. But what really makes these ships stand out is the story each ship tells. All ships have some set of procedural generation to them. It doesn't matter how many times I've salvaged the ship, something always felt different between each salvaged ship. Which brings me to the reason I love this game so much. And that would be the fact that there is no set path to salvaging the ships. Each ship, being unique to itself, presents a puzzle to be solved, a challenge to be conquered, and how you go about dismantling the ship is entirely up to the player. If you want to be slow and calculative about how your ship comes apart, you can do that. If you want to be more chaotic about it and put the game engine into overdrive, you can do that. Or if you want to say, screw it, I'm not tearing this ship apart, I'm just going to throw it in the trash. Although this is a longer project and very time consuming, you can very much throw the entire ship into the dumpster. So I just want to pause here and note that this took an extremely long time to do, and I don't recommend. But hey, it's possible, so if this is up your alley, be my guest. The developer even went as far as adding a speed mode to the game called Cutter Race, where you can compete against other shipbreakers for the most salvage in a specific amount of time. This game is truly built around its ships, and it shows. It's time to move on to the bad of Hardspace. Although this game is amazing, it's still prone to run into some of its fair share of problems. Let's start at the top, the lack of content. Although the complexity and the sheer beauty of this game brings me back every time, I feel as though there's a void in the content. Yes, I understand the developers added a story, but the story is more like banter between characters you are introduced to. I feel when I am playing and the story starts up, I am more so listening to a podcast or listening to some corporate propaganda than physically interacting with the story. I can live with the radio chatter if it was more prudent to the task I was performing or an event that was taking place. And that's not to say they won't add more content like this at a later time, but as of right now, the story feels a little stale. All the while, unlocking new ships is amazing. Seeing everything in a different state and solving the puzzles of a ship is thrilling, but between the 4 categories of ships and the 2 to 4 variants of those ships, you tend to run out of ships to salvage and hold your interest. Again, I'm not saying they aren't planning on doing something of the sort to broaden what's available. I'm simply saying, as of now, there aren't very many options when it comes to salvaging. As a quick disclaimer, if you're enjoying this video, please leave a like down below. I would appreciate it very much, and it lets me know that you're enjoying this kind of content. With those negatives out of the way, I believe that the developers can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Starting with the story. Like I stated prior, I feel the banter between the characters would be fine if it was more prudent to the situation. Simply locking players in a position while the cast converses amongst themselves is a sure way to turn people off of the story. I think having missions that could be accepted at the player's terminal would be a good start to some story content. An idea for missions would be to take the players away from the station to help salvage away from home, such as ships stranded in an asteroid belt or lost power in the part of deep space. With this type of mission in mind, you could add more ships for the players to navigate, larger and more complex ships for players to deconstruct. I love the concept in the story for a union forming against Lynx, as it opens up the possibility for salvaging wreckage from conflicts in space. The foundation for this game is solid, and with some time, this game could potentially be a breath of fresh air for the gaming community. Now, with everything presented, I absolutely think this game has the potential for being a masterpiece. Therefore, I will be giving this game a 7 out of 10. For its innovative design and beautiful atmosphere, Hardspace ShipBreaker scratches a very satisfying itch I never knew needed to be scratched in the first place. From here, I hope the developers grow this game even further and make it shine with its true potential. At this time, I'd like to take a moment of your time to ask what your thoughts are on the game, the good and bad you've taken from the experience, and what you may feel would help enhance your overall experience in the future. If you've made it this far into the video, I would like to thank you for your time. If you enjoyed the video, please feel free to like and subscribe for any and all future content. As for now, I will see you all in the next video. And remember, with Lynx, death is a fresh start.